Managing change is a business buzzword that has pushed companies to grapple with their identities and plans. People are no different. Generational changes are taking effect that have seen wisdom flow up as well as down, and there are ripples. In this episode, Tanja talks about her personal changes in the 18 months since we last spoke. Among the challenges she has faced is a blueprint that many of us might consider relevant. What is especially interesting is a statement she declares of herself: "I am not an automaton." Can we all say the same? Of myself, I don't really know. Thank you, Tanja, as always, for your openness. Happy New Year, everybody. This is Two and a Mic clocking out. Enjoy.
Dung weche pek kod welo mabiro e Two and a Mic. Dung parodit kod jok mawuoye Two and a Mic. Seche tin sud buta wawinji e Two and a Mic. Wola wachokre wabed piny bi wawinje ero chako moment ndi Two and a Mic podcast makende.
I have a returning, how can I say, friend, of course, but also somebody who we've had some lots of deep, meaningful conversations with. Tanja, it's so good to have you back.
Thank you so much, Zach. It's amazing to be back again. It has been quite a while.
Yeah, obviously way too long. But the intervening period is in itself significant and something that we're going to talk about. There are so many things to cover, but we're going to try to do so in our typically entertaining fashion. I'm not going to pose a question which is going to dictate to you where to go. You're too independently minded for that to even be a realistic option. You tell me, what's been going on?
A hell of a lot. Now it's up to me to come up with a structure. Okay, maybe one thing I can throw in, and so we go directly into a deep dive. This week is going to be my last week at my current job position, and that is that had been quite a decision for me. Yeah. Because it's not only that I'm going to stop working as a political analyst for the foreign ministry, but where I've been seconded to the last 2 years, but it is actually the underneath decision that after nearly 2 decades, I'd like to leave a field where I have been working with immense passion and putting in a lot of myself, a lot of my lifetime. And that is all the topic around crisis and conflict context, about fragile contexts. So here you go. Throwing that on the table.
Wow. Okay. It's definitely landed with a bang. These are areas, obviously, of significant interest at the moment. They always have been. I think at every stage of human development, we've had, on the one hand, this glorious recognition of other, but then thereafter, the unfortunate come down of competition, greed, perhaps, conflict, and so on. And we haven't always, as a species, been able to manage that particularly well, which is also an unfortunate statement of who we are and where we are. Is there, you just mentioned it, 20 years doing something which you are extremely passionate about. Is there a reason why you've decided now to turn away from that?
Yeah, there is. First of all, I think just because I do something for 2 years or 2 days or 2 hours or 20 years doesn't mean that there is an automatism that I have to continue that over and over again. but to be self-conscious and to see, am I still into that as I have been maybe on the first day? And with regard to working on and in conflicts and crisis, I have changed in the sense of that the work I did in the last 20 years was focusing on a society level and on a political level. Implementing projects, advising, analyzing different stakeholders, be it tribal elders, be it ministries, be it you name it, whoever I've been working with. And I could see that in the last years, I had the tendency, and I feel that stronger and stronger, that I would prefer to work on a more individual level, because I really think, and that might sound a bit, in German we would say abgedroschen, like maybe used, is like peace starts within ourselves. So you can go out there and you can try your best and you can have the best intention to support others, be it in your own society here at home, be it in other societies, and try to serve and try to help. If you don't have peace within yourself, then you can't support any other person having peace, because you wouldn't understand the concept of how it feels to be peaceful anyway. So how can you then support others? Yeah, and so that's one of the reasons. I'm turning my back towards what I did in the last 2 decades, in the sense of that I'm not interested anymore in going abroad, heading projects, or being very much in detailed involved in political topics or analysis. But I found a big satisfaction and pleasure in supporting people who are working in that field. Because what I did in the last 2 years, about of the like task I had on my table while working as the political advisor, I did also had the chance to mentor and to coach colleagues who were working with me in that field. And that is something which gave me really deep satisfaction and a pleasure and joy, to see that I could be of support and help with my own experiences I had in the past. And that is something I really like to continue and to implement. I don't have a clue how to do that, really not. So I'm actually leaving my job and I'm leaving the field I have the most experiences in, without knowing where I'm going to go. But my strong and firm belief is I can't expect something new to come into my life if my hands are already full. So if you want something new to come, you need to create space for it. So that is why I decided, okay, I leave that. I decided that and communicated that this summer, so that there is no space for new things to come. And that feels mostly very exciting. Sometimes I'm also a bit fearful. Oh my God, what is going to happen? But that is really, really rare, I have to say. But still, it's also there, and it's important to acknowledge.
When you mentioned before the attention that needed to be turned towards the self, it kind of reminded me of something that an Armenian philosopher said in a couple of centuries ago, when he was referring to an organization dedicated to public service. And he said 99% of the organization's work should be focused on serving the public and therefore carrying out its objectives. However, 1% of the time, it has to focus 100% on itself, because it needs to make sure that it is in a position that it can help others.
Yes.
And I think that pretty much explains what you were trying to say as well. And you can always take this principle, you can either expand it to a larger organization or a government, or reduce it also to the individual level, as you are doing.
Exactly. Yeah.
We really do sometimes overlook the support teams behind successes. This is something which has, especially in public life, you see there are certain people that love to jump on the stage and love to show themselves and love to take all the acclaim and so on. But they could have done bollocks all, if you pardon my use of the term, without a team supporting them and making all of that possible. And so sometimes I would ask myself, what's more important within a building? Is it the facade or is it the foundation?
Really right. If you would ask me that question, I would go, and I strongly believe that the fundament is the most important for a building. It doesn't matter if it's an organization, if it's a romantic relationship, if it's whatever. And at the same time, it would be very unrealistic within the world we are living. To say that the facade doesn't matter. And actually, we need both. We need people who are committed to bring the message out there, like maybe also to jump on the stage and to be very outspoken. And that is hard work as well as it is when you are working on the basis, on the fundamentals, in the background, whatever. You need dedication in these both spheres. And what for me is important, and what I would actually wish for more, is that we don't only have specialists who do the one or the other, but that we need a bit more of a generalist who knows both things. Because then you can really create something bigger, I think. If the people who are standing in the first line have like a really good and stable understanding of what it takes in the background, and also the ones in the background to understand what it takes, because it's not easy to jump out there and throw yourself out to the public. And I would always go for more that people do both things, or have at least an idea, because that also then will result in more appreciation for the job of the other.
Yep. Yeah.
More tolerance, maybe also.
And it must also be said, in my admission, the people who put themselves forward on stage are also the ones who get all of the flack on social media and all the criticism. That's very much the case as well. And it does take a lot of courage to do so. Just so that people can get a bit more of an idea of exactly how difficult it is to work under some of the circumstances in which you operate, and people who, like you, have operated in these contexts, in these sort of conflict areas and so on. Mm-hmm. How hard is it to establish relations and thereafter to get those relations that you have created to in some way fulfill the strategies that you believe should be fulfilled in a given area? And I know this is extremely generalized, and you have worked in some very difficult areas. But just to give people a bit of an idea what kind of things you've been doing throughout these 2 decades.
That's an interesting question. You have to stop me if I go too long. I was just, okay, it had been quite a while that I've been in Afghanistan. It was between 2006 and 2010. But maybe I refer to the time I've been working there. Like, first of all, I never went somewhere with the mindset that I have to convince people that I know the one and only way and that they should follow that way, like that I have a fulfilled strategy and my job is only to bring people on board. No, of course, when I go to another context, like for example Afghanistan, I have a task And me personally, I see the task as a kind of a guideline. So that means first thing is do a reality check if this task is actually possible. You know, like, for example, we did implement small-scale projects on a community level together with the communities in northeast Afghanistan. And so I couldn't have gone to the communities saying like, oh, I'm here. And this is my idea, and we do that and that. I mean, sorry, Zach, if somebody would do that here, come to your quarter from some other country far away, it's like, okay, I know what you need, and I'm going to tell you what you need, and I'm also going to tell you how you need to do that. I don't know where you're going to send him or her, but I would send him maybe to the next planet, you know, like I would not listen at all. So it's not about that. It's about going there, learning. My mindset was always about, okay, I have a task, but in order to see if I can fulfill the task, I need to learn. I'm a guest. I'm listening. And that's what I did for hours, listening, talking, sitting, understanding, trying to understand, being very, very conscious that I still am the person I am, coming from the country I come from, having the mindset and the education I have, which is like very different from the ones that people had I was sitting with. So then one of my responsibilities like was not, and that is me, and I know that I have people in the field I worked in who view it a bit different, but that's fine as well, is I go there with my task, I double check for myself, I gather as much information as I can, and then I reflect them back. And then I say, okay, the task I have, the project I should implement, which had been agreed upon between, in that case, Germany and Afghanistan, is feasible, or is not feasible in this parts. And here I have this and this suggestion after I talk with the people on the ground. And then it is very much like an Aushandlungsprozess, a negotiation process. And that is the actual work. The work is not, okay, we implement ABC project. The actual work is, and the projects are then that what you can see and you can visit and you can take pictures and put in the newspaper or wherever. No, the actual work is behind the scenes. It does that somehow.
Yeah. No, it's great. And that's one of the main topics, I think, which I was really hoping as well that you would highlight. It's sometimes people still have this colonialism mentality that we can go in there and do things because on television we hear people living in caves and we're here in these wonderful buildings. As you said, reality check. Things are not quite like that.
No. And what helps me always is put myself as the best I can in the shoes of the other. And I can tell you, if somebody would come with that kind of attitude you were outlining before, I would give them not only one of my middle finger, I would give them both and the huge fuck off. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, I love the succinct manner in which you use these terms. I think it's quite clear.
I made myself understood. That's good.
Very clear. I think you didn't even have to communicate in any specific language. People would have understood. Yeah, that's cool. But so clearly, as you also suggested earlier, that you've amassed a lot of experience and something which you're going to be able to use to pass on and help people to develop their strategies and their methods of working and helping them in that process. You did also this conflict coach training, and this was a long course. I think you said about 1.5 years. When you started that, was that also a part of your idea then that you would be removing yourself from the Foreign Office, as it were? Or did that kind of develop over time?
No, that was totally independent of that. Had nothing to do when I decided last year in summer to start this course/training. I did that mainly for my personal reasons, because like maybe I go one step back, because you said before that, yeah, I'd like to support colleagues and people who are working in that field and try to let them, yeah, maybe have an easier way, but not only about how to work better, but like how to treat yourself better, because that is where it boils down to. Like, you can only treat others in the way you treat yourself. And when you see a person, or when I see a person who is like really aggressive to others, like even if you walk down the road, then I am quite sure that this person is treating him or herself even worse, because we, you know, like it's mostly we are much harder on ourselves than we are on the others. So when I come back to the conflict coach training, I did that mostly because I am part of a generation, I actually don't know if that today still is the case, that when I grew up, girls were not meant to be angry, and boys were not meant to cry. Yeah. So there are many ladies out there who, for them, it's difficult to live up to their own aggression. But the point is that anger and aggression is also synonymous for life force. I mean, you know how energetic you can feel when you are like really angry and when you are able to let it out. And there are other options to let that out, a part of like really hurtful behaviors, like calling people names, or hitting or shouting or whatever, or destroying things, waging war. You know, you can also use that force, that power differently, but we don't learn this. So I could see that I had the behavior of suppressing my anger. And a couple of years before I started that training, I did another course where I have been told one thing that really hit me hard by the trainer. And she told me, I was standing there and giving like a speech, which was the exercise. And she was like, Tanja, are you angry? I have the feeling you are angry. And I was like, yeah, I'm really angry. And then she was asking me only one question. And why are you smiling? And Zach, I didn't realize that, because never ever somebody mirrored that to me. And after that, I was more conscious, and I was like, yeah, when I was angry, I was masquerading that. I have the capacity, due to the way I grew up, to hold that feeling and not to burst out. But that comes to an immense cost inside myself, and I was masquerading it with a smile. But that is not sincere and not authentic, not towards me and not towards others, you know. And that is where I was first like, well, that is really interesting. Why am I doing that? And that's where the journey started. And then when I found this, actually a very dear friend of mine told me about that training, and it hit me directly, and it was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So that's the reason why I did that. And funny enough, the whole topic of conflict is still there, just on another level. And of course, we did also how to mediate conflicts between two different parties, how to be better in your own conflicts with another person, but also within yourself. Because we are so aggressive to ourselves, we are so hurtful in some behaviors towards ourselves, and mostly not conscious about that. So yeah, I think that is the connection.
Yeah. Okay. This will kind of highlight where you're going to go from a career basis, anyway. But you also mentioned something before that you're going to undertake during your sabbatical, which may perhaps be a part of the process of handling conflict within yourself. I don't know. I've never done this. But maybe it's all connected. But yeah, do you want to tell us a bit more about your your meditation, what is it, retreat?
Retreat, yeah, I
Yeah.
can. Yeah, so yeah, indeed, I took another sabbatical for another 4 months from January onwards, and I'm going to spend half of the time in Southeast Asia, and I plan to visit one Buddhist temple where I had been already before in 2001, 2008, 12 and 15, so 4 times. So I'm going to go there the 5th time now. So it's going to be the 5th retreat, and it's like a 10 to 12 day Vipassana meditation retreat. Yeah, so where it's going to be me and me. Can't be worse.
Okay.
And it is quite interesting because the last time I've been there was in 2015, so it's nearly 9 years ago. And when I left the temple the last time, I was really angry. And I remember that I told my teacher, the monk who was my teacher during that retreat, I was like, well, I don't even know why it should be good to do this retreat. Shouldn't it be better that we meditate every day, that we incorporate and integrate these things in our daily life instead of like coming here or closing myself up for a couple of days and then thinking that I'm like all another person, like very exaggerating now. And he was smiling mildly at me, nodding, and he was like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Which didn't help me regulate my anger at that time. But yeah, and what happened in the last 9 years that I got better and better in integrating certain, let's say rituals for myself. And it's like years now that I'm meditating every day. And I did not consciously, like cognitively decide to go there. It had been a gut feeling. So when I did the sabbatical, when I applied for the sabbatical, then it was like, yeah, and I think we need to go there now. And there is a lot of respect inside me for this journey, doing that retreat again, because of what happened in the last 9 years. I was able, and I'm very happy and thankful, grateful for that, to discover and work on different layers of issues, flaws, traumas, and so my fantasy is that the retreat this time might hit quite deep. And that is something where I'm like, yeah, that's why I go there. And then on the other hand side, do I really want that? So I don't know what to expect, but that doesn't mean that this is a reason. Being a bit fearful doesn't equal to me not doing things. You can have fear and you can do it. And so I'll go there and then I can tell you afterwards.
Yeah, looking forward to that in the next few months then. And just to connect some of these things together as well, because I've been reading up on yogic and Buddhist traditions, belief structures, and so on. And there is this strong element which you also refer to: love yourself. Learn to love yourself, learn to appreciate yourself and who you are. And from then, of course, as you said, that can shine outwards and encompass those around you.
Yeah.
And I do think that's a powerful message. Sometimes we don't show ourselves the love and respect that we should.
Absolutely. Yeah, and no wonder, because not many of us learn that. It's something you have to learn, you have to be shown, and it is not exactly the value or a value which is very highly regarded in our society. I mean, it is changing. That's actually at least my perception. But I didn't grow up to and somebody told me how to love myself or how to have trust in myself.
Yeah. And so we're going to flow now through a number
Flow.
of interesting, yeah, I thought you'd like that word, through a number of interesting topics. And they're all kind of connected as well, because earlier on in this chat, you mentioned how it's important for you to be able to help other people to, I suppose, give an opportunity for them to voice and express themselves and to learn, I guess, about themselves. And this brings us to one of your sort of pet projects, which is a lot deeper than just simply being a project, Sensual Talk, which is what we started upon ourselves when we first did our podcast. And I will put another link in as well, so that people could go back to it and find out more about it. But these last months, you also had taken a step back from some of those activities too. So that should tell people exactly how significant this period has been for you on a personal level. But you are going back into that now, aren't you?
Yeah, like the Sensual Talk is there since 2019 and is with me, and it's really a kind of a heart issue. I wouldn't want to say project of mine. And yeah, indeed, the last Sensual Talk, I used to do that or try to do that on a monthly or bi-monthly base, and the last one I did was beginning of this year. So in the last months, indeed, I didn't do a Sensual Talk, which does not mean that I am not being busy with the topics under the Sensual Talk. And actually, I mean, I don't know how things go, but I am very interested, and I love to create, and I love even more to co-create with others, because I found that really fulfilling. And so what I did the last months was going out there and asking others if we could co-create things. And there is one lady I value very much from the dance community here where I live, and who also likes to offer things to the community, and we are having talks. So maybe next year we will give it a try and organize something together, which includes the element of the Sensual Talk. That is one thing, and I'm really excited about that and very positive about it. And then the other thing is that I do plan to continue with the Sensual Talk. And at the same time, I can see that I really like to change the format, to change the way I bring it out there. And my hope is also that I am able to use that sabbatical to have better insights of where I want to go, how I want to create this, how I want to form that, and then to take it from there. Yeah. And what has been actually really nice is that there had been requests for the Sensual Talk that really touched me, that ladies were coming back to me like, when are you doing the next Sensual Talk, and what about the Sensual Talk, and still keep sending me links and documentaries or book titles on certain topics, which we covered in the Sensual Talk. So that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have a community which keeps on coming back, and there is activism within it. Yeah, cool. Good. Okay, then I look forward to hearing more about that as well. You also talked there, you mentioned the magic word dance. Yeah. How's that coming along? Bachata, isn't it?
Yeah, that is like that's one of the dances. Yeah. Actually, what changed also in this year is that I started taking classes again. After it took me quite a while after COVID. So last year I was mainly focusing on festivals and going dancing and connecting on the social dance floors. And so with this year I decided to go back to classes. So I'm taking, of course, bachata classes, but I'm also taking salsa classes. And something I'm really, really excited about is that I started a couple of months ago with something I didn't do before, which is contemporary dance, which is something like I do for myself. It's not like a partner dance. And it's great. I really love it. I think if you watch me in the classes, there will be a fair amount of laughter. And at the same time, I can see, the Tanja 10 years ago, if she would have been in these classes, I know that the version of me 10 years ago would have said, well, I don't know how to dance contemporary, so I should not be here. I didn't even give me the chance to learn something because I thought always I need to be like quite good from the beginning. And now I'm like, yeah, I am here because I want to learn this, because I don't know it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here, and that is quite a change of mindset and of perspective. And yeah, I really enjoy it. And I have the intention of continuing it just because I like it.
Yeah. Very good. That also reminds me, I did Zumba in the gym for about 6 or 7 sessions, and I even though I clearly I looked, I think I described myself as looking like a maintenance robot malfunctioning while trying to do this dance, but or routine, as it were. But it really is quite good, and unfortunately I've not been able to go back to it for some time because the sessions are not at the most optimal time point. But sometimes doing things which you're not good at is also quite liberating, because the first time I was there, a lady came up to me and said, "Here, you're a bit stiff," she said. "Here, you can move anything you want, however you want. So just let yourself go." And I thought, thank you. Because I think she was absolutely correct, and I tried to do that afterwards with comedic effect, but I still keep what she says in my mind. Sometimes we think too much about things, and we should just do it, as Nike says.
Yes, and it's really interesting that when the teacher, for example, when the trainer is showing a certain technique or a move, you see it, and it's like, okay, that's pretty easy. And at the end of the day, I only have 2 arms and 2 legs, right? And then when I try to copy that for the first time, I can really see that my body is like, what the hell are you doing there? And I feel as if I have 5 arms and 8 legs, and I need to coordinate all of them. And that it has a really funny aspect as well, because I don't have any other part in my life where I feel that, and it's beautiful. And then it's also beautiful to see, like, if you just do it slowly and you like teach your body to do this movement, then after a couple of minutes, this sensation changes. I'm not saying that it's then perfect, that I'm doing it perfect. It's far from perfect, but at least I understand how the movement should be.
And again, it's something which you got to keep going and doing because you do improve. And I mean, for example, with yoga, I would see sometimes the instructor doing things, and I said to myself, "There's no way my body's doing anything like that." But over time, my body has decided to suggest a semblance of similarity with what's going on, and that's an acceptable situation for me. So it's all
I love
good.
the way you put it. Yes, exactly. I feel that.
Yeah. Cool. So we've talked about loving thyself to give a biblical twist to it, but now also it would appear there is love some other, and there is another personal change in your affairs, as it were. If you'd like to talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah, I can. I am in love, actually.
Shock horror. Okay.
How could that happen? Yeah. I've been in a relationship now for quite a while, and that also, like every kind of relationship, loving or romantic relationship per se, are like a catalyst in how you perceive yourself and how you are being thrown back to yourself. And one of the most interesting experiences I had with myself within that relationship in the last months is like, I always thought, I had a revelation, or I thought I had a revelation a couple of years ago when I was sitting down and I was like, okay, what kind of relationship do I want to have with a man? And then I was writing that down, like how do I want to feel in my relationship? If I am free to dream it my way, not considering Hollywood, Bollywood, books, romanticism whatsoever, but just me, Tanja, as the person I am, how would I want to live my relationship and how would I want to feel in that relationship? And my lesson learned, or one of the many lessons learned, beautiful lessons learned in the last months, were that the one thing is to know what you want, and the other thing is to allow yourself to have it. And that is something that had been quite a road for myself, because I thought, okay, I have clear what I want for, so I can now be open for whatever is coming and see if that goes in that direction. But then when you get what you were wishing for, or in my case, then I was like, observing myself and understanding that in quite some situations, I actually didn't allow myself to really have that, mm-hmm. and to realize that. So why do I behave in a certain way in that situation? Why do I feel like that? Yeah, that was quite an interesting development. It is still an interesting development, because if we don't allow us to get what we want, to have what we want, we will end up automatically and unconsciously in self-sabotaging.
Yeah, which is a horrible thing to do, considering how difficult life can be sometimes. It's nice to take care of ourselves.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. What's also wonderful about what's happened with you, and this case with your significant other, is that I find you are somebody who has highlighted love, sensuality, the wish to communicate, expand, experience for others. And it's wonderful that you have found somebody with whom you can now expand and experiment the depths of your love and affection. So, yeah, well done.
Absolutely. That's really nicely put. Thank you, Zach. Yeah,
I get lucky
exactly.
sometimes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I would wish for that's the same for the other side, which I think it is, but yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. In a few months, maybe we can grab him on the show and have a chat with him. But that'd be quite funny. Yeah. But anyway, I think that's a fantastic note upon which to halt temporarily, because this conversation will continue when you're back from your trip, but also from your sabbatical and undertaking your other steps. So cool. Thanks for coming back, Tanja. Sometimes it's not so easy to come back somewhere familiar, but you're always welcome. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Zach. It was as if I didn't feel the 1.5 years in between. It's really nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
2 and a mic. 2.